Can we achieve victory in Paris? Well, I don't know. We have made a major breakthrough here, though we're sort of at the end of our supply lines. We've done something of a breakthrough up here. We had a setback. The Americans came in and set us back a bit. So we are holding our own, but we got reinforcements coming. So, yes, we're doing okay there. We are pushing here because we'd like to push out to the coast. We are also pushing up here along the coast, just ever so slowly, mostly to keep the British tied up here, because otherwise they come down here. So we need to apply pressure in multiple places. Just going to check to see that we're streaming where we need to be streaming. Okay, I guess it looks like we're doing well. All right. Always let me know any feedback, picture, sound, whatever. Okay, well, we purchased all that we can purchase in that we are completely filled up. I'd love a few more HQs, help with the supply and everything. People. Units full, ready. All right, we'll do it. Good. Well, let's give the Entente their turn. The air war over. Europe. They decided after a heavy pounding come here. And darkly there too, but not very strongly. See what I need to do down in the area here, down in here. Now, we'll see if we can do it. This is also sort of dangerous because he's well surrounded. Yes. Okay, they lost recon bombers. All right, some detachments. Very good. Detachments are really useful. We can use them down here to fill this line where there's not much happening. Here also as well. Here, right. And as we're breaking down in deeper, we can use them as well. You got to be careful about their use. Very, very careful, that is. Okay, well, as we can see, if we take away the chips, this is where we really have to cut, because we're trying to cut off rail supply here. We also have to cut here. We can also sort of cut it here to cut off rail supply. So that's our target here. And eventually completely cut it. But it's rail supply, so they can't just continue to strategically redeploy or deploy initially in forces. So, okay, right now if we were to attack, it would be not in our favor. I have been reasonably successful in just killing their units at light cost, but I'm thinking about now trying to, again, push a little bit more here and here to collapse and push this back. So I think artillery, of course, is the key. But let's save it. Well, okay, we got a pretty good barrage there, actually. Heavy bombers. We'll bomb here. Okay, we got the tanks. We identified their location. That's what we needed to do with that. Now, let's look at that. Yeah, if we can take that Well, we've taken the city. Okay. Taking the city. We need to push out here, maybe. I really am trying to do this with the fewest human casualties practical. Why? Pretty good right in here. We're going to use him to come in and do that and dig in. Yeah, I think that's good. Here. Ability to wreck some artillery is greatly appreciated. We come down to here. A little bit help. Take all of our action points out. Take all of our action points. That will not. Good. Artillery is expensive. No. You can move here and entrench. You can move into the entrenchments that are. No, it's just a, what, Portuguese? Oh, Italian. Okay, he's Italian reinforcement, HQ, but wrecking an HQ is an expensive thing to replace. That is but reaction points. We can move him down to replace him to there. So let's make these guys uncomfortable. come in here and that. A good supply. Get up here. I'm going to get you on the far side of this town to help the supply here. Not great supply here, but supply nonetheless. Now, what's going to happen? Well, I don't know exactly, but the AI is going to react to all of this. We have a major crossroads here that's unoccupied. We've got a crossroads back here that is, one way down here with artillery that's occupied. So they're going to, and then they got aircraft, HQs, and that's it holding this area here. So this is a major sort of oopsie. Now, you look closer to the front there. You got a lot of traffic jam sort of up here to push. We got these guys at fairly high readiness now. So I think we're going to do here is this shift and get you to the front line to where you're not going to attack. Just back here. We're going to move the artillery up here where it can actually hit something next. Well, yeah, next turn here at 10. Yeah, I guess we increase your size. That way, when we are a bit more ready to attack next turn, we can pound in here or up here. So what I'm hoping is that they will move forces down to here and weaken some of the other fronts. But if they don't, we'll keep pushing there. 3 shells and 3 shells. Oh, 7 shells. Okay, well. Oh. Okay. Now they have to contend with, there may be a lot of forces back here, but who gets sent where, when? So 7 rounds here. So let's we're going to do here is come in here, see all of that, and then we're going to change angle entrenchments. And these guys are going to go fill in the gap. Filling in the gap. Now there had been a longer line, is now pushed to 2. We got these guys that could be hit from a lot of angles, but well, we got some artillery to help back them up. Yeah, I think we're okay. They may take this unit out, but we've taken out a bunch of their other units. Now down here. Let's fire 3 here at these Americans. Maybe hit a little harder than I'd like. Or we were. Attack. Oh, well, I was hoping to not entirely. And we'll bring you up here like that. Okay, they shattered. We'll reinforce these guys. Well, pretty good. What is that hex's supply next turn? 6. Okay, that would be all right. Actually, there's a ground attack. Now I don't want to use you. I want to use you. Yep, but we should have some escorts here. Now we will use the ground attack now that we know where they are. No real. Well, that was a bit costly, but right. Well, we didn't quite do as much damage as I was hoping, but we did do some. We can reinforce you. You dug in? No, you are not dug in. You will become dug in now. Now. You guys, you dig in. Well, yay. They can't do anything that way. Yeah. Let's shift these two divisions like that. Okay, any of these guys, yeah, we can reinforce still. You know, a lot of them were active this turn. Well, they just have a detachment there now. I think earlier it was a division. Not that I'm planning any major offensive there, but might as well weaken them to make them pay for reinforcements down there. Hey, Felipe, how you doing? Haven't looked over at the chat for just a moment. You're crazy here in Brazil. X, yeah, Twitter has taken down the judge. Yeah. Also, Starlink accounts are blocked in Brazil. Yeah, and as I'm saying this, I can't remember exactly where the source that I got it from, but, and I'm sure I'm getting some of this wrong, but I think it was this, well, a 3-letter agency in the U.S. that pushed some voting machines into Brazil or something. Maybe you know about it, Felipe? Yeah, all done by your Chief Justice. So now I don't know if this is a reliable source, but to get rid of Bolsonaro, it was the U.S. and the Western governments hated Bolsonaro. So yeah, that I'm sure of. And they were doing what they could, whatever that means, to try to not have him reelected. So maybe they went rather far. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, the judge. Purchase anything? No. Well, I think what The appropriate term is people's democracy. They're trying to disguise that here in America, which of course is a single party state. And so, yeah, they're trying to create a people's democracy. Basically, mobocracy, basically rule by the perceived, whether it's in reality or not, tyranny of the majority. All right, well. Yeah, command and control level 3, good. I should put some more points into that, maybe, to research. I keep forgetting to do so. Well, I don't know that the U.S. government isn't happy with what's happening down in Brazil. I do know some statement from the U.S. Embassy is not happy, or has made concerning noises about the Twitter situation, but is that because they're not happy, or is that just because they feel they have to keep their image up? Hey, Mirror Man. Sorry about the code. I don't know what happened. Well, the war goes fairly well. No, 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 no. The U.S. government does not like Elon Musk. The current government, the current establishment. They don't like Elon Musk at all. I'm waiting for all this artillery noise to stop to really talk a bit more about it, but I'll explain what's going on with Elon Musk in a minute. Wow, they really don't like this guy. That hurt pretty heavy. Let's see, I've got another guy up here. Let's have artillery break up their attack a little bit. Just a bit. Attack them, but taking out the... Now they're going to attack directly into our artillery, which is not good. Like I say, it's not good. But I'll give you guys my understanding of what the U.S. government think and is trying to do with Elon Musk. Very interesting, actually. And Felipe sort of got close to it a bit. Well, we knew they would pound that guy pretty heavy there. Can he hold out? Nope, can't hold out. Okay. They've actually come and run a bit of an offensive up north for me. We can salvage the situation, but it is rough. Yes, but I'll explain in just a moment. You understand some of it, Lipe. I can tell, but I don't think you. It's nuanced, and did I push too hard? Not necessarily here. I mean, I think they're going to take this guy out, but we do need to push. I'm probably not pushing as hard as I should overall. Here, that was a much bigger offensive than I thought. Did I forget to reinforce him? Probably. Oh, he held out. So far, they may get attacked from the north up there. Something, yeah. Yeah, I saw that one coming. Okay, well, we've taken a big hit. I'll present my evidence of what's going on with the U.S. government and Elon Musk. I think it's convincing enough. I just don't want to do it over all this other noise. Yeah, we had a bunch of units destroyed. Detachment. Okay, where do we want to put the detachment? Well, we're having a bit of a hard time up here, so we may need this up here. So we'll put him here. All right. Is this a new campaign? Well, I've been playing it for a bit. This is the 1918 Ludendorff Offensive DLC. Here, man. Okay. Elon Musk. Some years ago, he was part of the establishment. That's why he was allowed to succeed. They didn't try to stop him. He basically, through the Obama administration, did everything right, supported the administration, did everything. Well, COVID and a personal tragedy in his family changed him. a few years ago now, during the Biden administration, they were on a really big push touring around factories of electronic vehicles and praising how much work and improvements had been done and whatnot with electronic vehicles. And they went to all the major factories except one. And I'm talking like Biden himself went. I'm sure some details are wrong here, but I'm painting the general picture. It's not a photograph, what I'm giving you, it's a painting. So there's details that are wrong. They didn't go to Tesla. Tesla is the largest EV manufacturer in the United States. So how do you have a, we're praising and promoting up EVs, but we won't go to the biggest EV factory in the United States? Currently, now we're jumping to current day, our space program in NASA is not doing so well. It's just sending probes out. But we have our people up on this space station. And again, I'll probably get some details wrong, but they're trapped up there right now. Because Boeing spacecraft is having problems. They can't send it up. They won't use SpaceX, who I just, within the last 24 hours, saw video of two boosters, because they sent up two ships at the same time, two boosters coming back down and landing perfectly next to each other on two different platforms, yes, back down for reusing. So Elon Musk, and is also, I think, and maybe even as I speak or getting prepared to, is sending up his first man. I don't know if it's his first manned mission, but his first manned mission that's going to do a spacewalk. So he has a capsule situation, and I'm sure because all the way back to when there was the Soviet Union, they went and they were going to do a meet in space and shake hands between two space, and it was a pretty big deal back then, between two, orbiters. This is before we had any space stations. And they had to work out to make sure that, and there was problems, and I don't remember all the details, but to make sure the two different spaceships would, lock up together and be sealed. So I am sure that they're all working on a standard enough airlock system, whatever, so that these different, even though they're coming from different companies, they can transfer people or whatever. So I can't imagine that not being the case. I may be wrong, but I can't imagine it not being the case. So they won't use SpaceX to rescue the American astronauts. They won't tour his company. They open up numerous investigations, including one investigation on Elon Musk, investigating why Elon Musk is not using enough foreign workers or something in SpaceX or whatever. And his short answer to it, even though they're still investigating it all, got to have security clearances to work for SpaceX because of the very sensitive nature. Now, here is gamer speculation, but I believe all these SpaceX launches that have been going up, they are launching Starlinks up into the sky and all that. But I bet they're, and like we're going to get to some of the stuff that Felipe mentioned, I bet you a few of them are putting secret U.S. satellites up, whether they are rods from God, nukes in space, anti-ballistic missile type systems, energy beams or whatever that's going to intercept, ballistic missiles, nuke missiles, those kinds of things. or just spy satellites or whatever. I bet you he's putting stuff up there. So they're doing everything they can to cripple him, but they also realize because you can't quite, the government can't quite now, there isn't a big enough, there isn't a world war actually going on. They can't quite just nationalize Elon Musk's businesses. That would and it wouldn't just be a big news story. No, it would be collapse, truly a collapse of congressional willingness to go along with the current regime. Because right now, the House is controlled by the Republicans. The Senate, I think right now, is 50-50. So, which means Kamala Harris gets the tie vote whenever it's the tie. The vice president is also technically the president of the Senate. She could literally eat every day, take the big chair at the back of the Senate and preside, who speaks next, whatever. That sort of like the Speaker of the House. She is equivalent, if you will, of the Speaker of the Senate, but it's called the President of the Senate. So I don't know that I think she's done a few tie votes, broken them, but they can only technically vote when it's a tie, the President of the Senate. But there's Manchin, who's a Democrat, but is not running for re-election, and he's, almost a Republican. And there's two, maybe three other Democratic senators that probably would go nuts and not support the government if they were actually nationalizing Elon Musk's business. So they can't do that. But as Felipe says, and I want to give him credit for it because he is understanding it, there is Starlink up there. And Starlink is an incredible asset for American intelligence. Starlink is officially only turned on because there's geolocation in the settings, and I know this goes back to older satellite phones that are still in use, but I'm just the older technology. That if you walk across the border in certain areas, they stop working because it's not a technical limitation; it's a political limitation. But somebody like Starlink could keep, and I don't know if it is, keep working in a country like Brazil, so they would have to run around and confiscate the Starlinks to keep them from working. So U.S. government has a few times have been upset with Elon Musk because he's either allowed Starlink to keep working or not let it work in a few places. But they need Starlink. They need SpaceX. So the U.S. government would like to shut down, they like to find reasons to put Elon Musk in jail. They are very upset that Twitter is no longer under their control. You can look up the Twitter files and see how the U.S. government had control over Twitter. Whenever they wanted something down, it went down. Whenever they wanted something promoted, it got promoted. And Twitter is, or X, or whatever. I think it was stupid to change the name to X, but it's like there's SpaceX. Well, it should have been Twitter X, and then you can do email X or X email or something. I think they should have left the name but just added X to it. But that's just me. I was born before autism, so I'm not autistic. Brazil Starlink used by a lot, even by the army. Right. X-mail, yeah, because he is coming with an email thing, Mirror Man. I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't have that X in the titles to tie all the different um, services and whatnot together, because you could do X banking, X video, X whatever on the net, and tie it all, link it all together. Um, I actually think that is a good idea. I mean, there's issues, but I think that's a good idea. So it it's not like a love-hate relationship with Elon Musk. It's a hate relationship, but one they can't do without. Because if Boeing can't get their act together, they will have to bend the knee and bring in SpaceX to get the astronauts back and maybe put new astronauts up. They, you know, and the U.S. government agencies have become more and more politicized. I would say since the 80s, the default government employee was a Democrat. But they feared, shall we say, um, being openly partisan. And I'm talking about the DMV, uh, the forestry department, the whatever regulatory department. I'm not even talking about the intelligence agencies or whatever. I'm just talking about overall. The default was Democrat, but it wasn't 100% Democrat, and it wasn't um, because my dad was a government employee, and remember years ago talking about something, and he explained to me, and I was, I don't know, in high school or something, or junior high, I don't remember exactly, but about the Hatch Act and how government employees cannot be political on the job. And that is no longer the case if you're a Democrat. I mean, it's still illegal. It's just they get to do it. So you have to see how it's all become politicized. Now, there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in the upcoming election in 70 some days. I mean, hell, there already are shenanigans going on. And before, well, both sides, no, it's overwhelmingly the Democrats. So I still think there's a very, very strong chance that Trump wins the election. This is going to cause great chaos in the United States, though I think it will ultimately be good for the United States. But all of these agencies, there's one imperative, at least it has been, and I don't know if it's changed, but there's one imperative within the government agency: to survive. They want their agency to be funded and grow and grow, and that's what they want. The people within the agency want that. So they're going to do what they can. So when Trump comes in, they're going to have to deal with the situation, whatever that means, because they know Trump can only be there for 4 years. And then they have a chance of switching it back. And if they can survive the 4 years, when the Democrat comes back in, that's what they hope or think, they'll be able to get things going again appropriately. So, to some degree, they're going to have to say yes, sir, to Trump's policy changes. But I see. I'm old. I realize I'm old. I remember fairly clearly the the ground control, for the airlines, the ground controllers strike during the Reagan administration. And it was an illegal strike because government employees, because they were government employees, were not allowed to strike. So, I mean, that's been U.S. law since whenever, not just something recent or Reaganite or whatever. So we're going to see a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, that's sort of the situation with Elon Musk. The government would like to ignore his existence, would like to put him in jail, would like to hobble all of his businesses or force him to sell them. And they're losing control because he has moved his corporate headquarters out of Delaware and out of California to Texas. So they're under Texas law. They're under Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. They're under Texas Governor Greg Abbott's legal jurisdiction. And that all matters. So, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know if anybody has questions, opinions about Musk. I'd love to hear them. I mean, I'm no Musk expert, but I do have some understanding of what's going on, I think. All right, so we've pushed down here. They've actually sort of kind of weakened this here. So we've got 6 shells. Swap those out and take it out. There we go. Now again, we want to remove the counters to look because we have the railway coming down here. So we want to take that town. We're getting decent supply too there. Okay. Say decent supply. Let's see actual supply. 7. I want to see right there. 5. Okay. Going to come down. Trench. One of the key things, he's so far out he doesn't have supply. The judge here is really obsessed with Elon Musk. Yeah, at least that's what it feels like from what I see online. So I people, I do realize I'm looking out through a window onto the world. So think about that. And using a metaphor. So picture a house with some windows in it, but not like an all glass house. But I'm looking out a single window. And let's say I'm looking north. I don't know. I can't see what's south, east, or west. And when I look out my window and I see another house, I don't know what's going on behind the house that I can't see through. Okay. So whether it's Twitter, looking at Twitter or X videos on there, or I don't talk about who, but I do have a friend who is in Ukraine and he gives me information. And it's from his perspective. And I don't think he's lying to me. I don't even think he's trying to mislead me. But it's his perspective. It's his window onto the world. Now he's physically in Ukraine and he can walk all the way around a building in Ukraine and tell me what all four sides look like compared to a news camera who's focused on one side of that building, if you will. So, and I do have other people, and I'm always trying to, like Felipe, who gives me information about Brazil, and if I had a specific question, he is definitely somebody I would go to find out more about something in Brazil if I thought it was, some detail was useful. So I realized I'm looking out at the world through a window, and I don't have the full picture. And everybody else out there, and some of them are my friends, often comment on things as if they know what's going on. They don't. They may have some information because they've listened to this source or that source or whatever um, on a topic, on a subject. But that is far different from actually knowing what's going on. Talking to another friend about Poland, and he had a very negative opinion, not about the current Polish attitude towards things, but how backward, shall we say, Poland actually is, technologically and whatnot, compared to a more Western European nation. So when I hear some people, oh, Poland's doing this great or that great or whatever, yeah, but they still have their issues. Yes, we can move there and still hit those things. And hello, Ragar. How you doing? You caught me, yes. What was I doing? No. I think you mean you caught me in that I was caught me live. That you did. How many artillery rounds? 3. How many artillery rounds? 8. This MP match, single player, Ragar, single player. It's actually fairly hard to organize up multiplayer things, and okay. Well, it's not that hard, and I could, and some of my Slytherin colleagues, friends, whatever, have done multiplayer games. If I wanted to organize one up for a particular day, that wouldn't be that hard. And I do want to do some more multiplayer type stuff because I've done a little bit on the channel. But Ragar, as I'm thinking about it, some of my multiplayer stuff has been actually some of my lowest view counts. So I don't know. But if as a one-time event, multiplayer is pretty easy to do. But to do it as a weekly thing, people just have real lives and can't quite always be available enough. So we can take out him probably. Okay, we're pushing down in here deep. We've got the rails here. That's what we need. That's Oh, damn, he retreated instead of that. Let me take it out. Hey, T2 Villeneuve. Okay, so now we've got here. Yes, French HQ. Yeah, and this is not a dynamic AI. Said HQ, but that too. This is a pre-programmed AI. And I forget who does a lot of their programming within the team. But so, it's sort of kind of playing against the person, but it's not really that dynamic. So, now we're going to bomb here. Yes, we're making some breakthroughs. That was actually not a planned breakthrough where it happened. Okay, good. I just need to see all of that. Just particularly that artillery piece that I can go in and kick some butt on and still be entrenched. There we go. Republicans look interested in helping with Brazil. Not particularly. They're not. They're anti the what Lula. Yeah, they're not pro Lula. But no, they're not particularly interested in it. They make mouth noises, chat about it, but not really. I'm sorry if you're thinking that they're really going to do something effective. No, they won't. They won't. I'm sorry to say that, but that's uh, the reality. I know no one in the current Congress. Now, please understand, and I know there's just a few people here watching. I used to drive, many years ago, a congressman around LA, him and not always. I wasn't my primary job, but periodically I'd drive him to events or things. And just him and I in the car for an hour or two each way going through LA traffic. So we were chatting about things. So I've met and chatted with other congressmen in the past. And now, again, none that are currently in Congress. So this was well more than 20 years ago. So I don't want this to make this seem like anything current. But I knew and was literally friends with congressmen, people, and they were all happy to be congressmen, the ones that I really knew. And I've met with, and shaken hands with other people, including, cabinet secretaries and sort of photo op lineup kind of things. I still have a few photos of me with some, fairly high up government officials. So in the past. So yeah, I've literally known, not just again met and shake. Like one, I do have a picture somewhere with Bob Dole. If you look up who Bob Dole was, Robert Dole, Bob Dole. So yeah, I've known some of these people and been friends with at least one that, like I say, friends and chatted with and talked a lot about things. So and I don't know that the current batch is significantly different than what I've known. So when I say these things, it does come from a certain familiarity with what's going on. So yeah, I would not put much thought into the idea that the government's going to do something about Brazil. Oh, they'll make statements, they'll make pronouncements. They'll go and say that, oh, this is so terrible. They shouldn't be doing this. Okay, and the AI in this is very predictable. They will always go for towns, cities, forts. You can set all of the manner of traps and wipe out. Yes, you're absolutely right, Mirror. I would rather play against the human, but like I say, trying to organize up a consistent opponent, and whether Mirror Man or somebody else, um, well, I would play with you. Yeah, okay, that will go for a week or two, and then oops, I've got to do something on a Saturday morning, at least Saturday morning my time, and then what do I do? Do I just fight against the AI? Do I try to quickly find somebody else to fill in the role? And then whoever I was normally playing with, oh, well, this guy messed up my whole lineup. He did everything different. And, so it's just that kind of thing. Let's see. I think Republicans are also trying to get Brazil to votes in the U.S. There's not that many Brazilians that vote here in the U.S., but yeah. Are you saying the Republicans would be any different, if not worse? Well, we're talking regarding Brazil. Um, Trump was not liked by the Republican establishment to the point of maybe being hated by the Republican establishment. Bolsonaro has been painted as here we go. And as an analogy, I think this is reasonably accurate. He has been painted as a populist Pinochet. Pinochet was not a populist, but a dictator. And Bolsonaro has been painted with that. So the Republican establishment is not in favor of Bolsonaro, and I think Bolsonaro is the only real opposition leader. Now, again, Felipe can tell me I'm wrong, and that there's maybe some other people that just I don't see from my window again in Brazil. But Brazil hardly is a blip on American politics. Okay. If it wasn't for Elon Musk talking about it on Twitter, no one would be talking about it in the US. Not in our press. I mean, I'm not saying there wouldn't be an article in some New York Times on page whatever. I'm saying it wouldn't be a story that the US population, even people like me, would hardly know about. Okay, so if it wasn't for Elon Musk talking about this, we wouldn't know about it. We wouldn't care. Brazil, and I don't quite know the timeline, is I don't know when it's sort of joining BRICS. Brazil has not been, and I think Bolsonaro was trying to pull, and this is maybe part of some of the issues, but pull Brazil out of BRICS. That's a international alliance thingy, sort of, kind of, whatever. I mean, it has enemies within it. It has both China and India that are about to go to war. So it's not like NATO, really. Well, except for Turkey, but that's another issue. So, yeah, Brazil is not being a nice little puppet for the U.S. for some time. It's maybe not as big a deal now, but there are nations out there that think, especially during the Cold War, oh, well, we don't have to pick sides. We can play both sides off the middle. We are an independent nation. We can do what we want. Come on. And then nations wonder, well, why won't they sell us our good weapons? Why won't they let us have good technology? Because you won't fucking pick a side. Okay, you won't freaking pick a side. So Brazil has been trying to not be necessarily anti-American. I know Brazil is part of the American continent. They are. Brazilians are Americans. Canadians are Americans. Americans are people that live in North and South America. It just United States citizen. It takes too long to say, so we just say Americans, and we all know we mean United States citizens because we are 50 countries up here in North America that we represent. Well, okay, one is out in the Pacific, but Hawaii, but we're 50 countries that are all in a united situation. But yeah, so and there are nations in the Americas like Cuba, just to throw one example out there, but I have others in my head too, that are anti-American, anti-U.S. Fine, they are. And again, the diet, the country that everybody is going on a diet. Venezuela, that's another anti-U.S. country. So yeah, Brazil has not been in recent times at least, an anti-U.S. country, but they've been trying to sort of do their own thing. Well, that isn't going to make the U.S. happy. That isn't going to make the Republicans happy. And as you need to play MP match offline, I would love to, Rhaegar. It's just schedules and times. Let me just quickly go up. Some Brazilians with some relevance that are in the USA now are trying to make USA do something. Yeah, Trump seems to like Bolsonaro. Yeah, Trump likes Bolsonaro. But Bolsonaro isn't in power. Again, they'll make noises. You'll hear the U.S. Embassy say things, Felipe. You'll hear the U.S. State Department say things, yes. You'll hear Trump say things. Is that going to change anything in Brazil? I don't know. I don't think so. So, yeah, it's right now there are two issues that are in the news big time that Americans and the American political class really care about. Ukraine and the Israeli-Gaza war. That is basically it. What is U.S. Supposed to say something? Oh, just about what's going on in Brazil. That Brazil is moving from something that was more or less democratic to what I would describe as becoming a people's democracy. I don't think either that Brazilian judge or Lula individually are powerful enough that we would call dictator, but I think the sort of party, the sort of mass movement of segment of Brazilian society is enough that it is becoming a people's democracy. And is the U.S. going to do anything about it? I mean, like what could the U.S. do? Are you thinking we would send in a Marine brigade and topple the current Brazilian government? Are you suggesting we would put economic sanctions on it? Oh, they'll just become more. Yeah, the Twitter X thing is sort of at the core of this. Yes, you're right. Are we going to put, like I say, economic sanctions? Well, they'll just become more friendly with BRICS. It's what would we do? It's just small nations around the world can become important, but only if they're on fire, and that fire is somehow burning down the world situation. And here would be one sort of example of that. The country of Yemen has been going through primarily a two-sided, but almost a three-sided civil war going on a long time. North and South Yemen shouldn't probably have been united, but they were post-Cold War, and then Iran started supporting one side, and then Saudi Arabia the other, and then sort of Oman and whatnot are supporting another faction within Yemen. But that really since that little nation has only one importance to it at all, is its geopolitical, its location. And since now it's starting to shoot at ships and take ships out at sea, and so it's burning down and it's catching international shipping on fire. That's why it's important. Otherwise, to the U.S., to the EU, to China, to even Russia, small nations out there are just unimportant. I mean, they're important to the people there. True. I'm not trying to, but they're just not going to be here. Let's see. Felipe, I have to say the judge, he looks more dangerous than Eula. Well, okay. I don't know the politics, again, is perception. Politics is organizing people up. So there's both the political aspect and then the government structure aspect. I don't think the judge is dangerous. Okay. I don't think, and again, I could be wrong, and again, I'm looking through my window. I don't think the judge can do anything. What I think is that Ula can sit there and go, well, the judge says X, so I have to do it. They're just using because if Lula was shutting down Twitter, he would be the bad guy. So by having the judge be the one that says this, oh, well, this is the rule of law, this is whatever, and they're just using that as an excuse to do what they already want to do. So I think it's all just I don't think the judge is what's dangerous. They're just using that as a perception thing within Brazilian politics to give legitimacy to the actions that Lula already wants to Lula already wants to do. So I don't think he's dangerous. I don't think the police or anybody does what the judge says. It just they do what the government what Lula says, and Lula just says, "Well, I'm just following the judge's orders." But I think he talks to the judge and they coordinate what's going on. So I don't think he's dangerous. I just think he's the excuse, the cover, if you will. From what I heard, the issue is that Musk is refusing to have representation for the company inside the country. In other words, trying to get around the rule. Well, it's more and Musk has, if Musk has been tweeting the truth, he's been tweeting the actual laws which contradict what the judge is ruling. So, yeah, it's just the judge is ruling one thing and the laws say another, and Musk is using one for the other. Because you got to understand, Musk is trying to promote freedom of speech. And I know some people, including some other YouTubers that I watch, oh, that's just bullshit. He's only doing that in some little country. But if you actually listen to what Musk says, and I don't know that these people do, he says within the bounds of the law, free speech within the bounds of the law, for each individual country. Okay. So, within the United States, I can say I hate the government, and I can say I wish the government would be overthrown. I don't. I want to change the government through elections, but I don't want it overthrown, just to be clear. But I could say that in the United States legally. But I can't try to plan overthrowing the government, okay, because that would be illegal. So I could wish it happening. I could say I like it to happen, but if I say, hey, Mirror Man, would you do this? And Felipe, you do that, and somebody else does that. And if I start planning, that's a crime, okay? Whether it's planning to rob a bank or planning to overthrow the government. So I could wish that bank was robbed, but if I start planning it, it is illegal in the United States. To plan a crime, even a misdemeanor, is actually a felony. So, yeah. So in the United States, you can complain about the government. You can wish all kinds of things on people, bad things on people. I'm not going to start citing examples on either who or what. You can wish all that. You can do that. But if you actually start to call for it, if you actually start to plan it and calling for it, planning it, that kind of thing, may be a bit of a nuance, but it is... upgrade infantry weapons there, is a real thing. So on X, Twitter, whatever, I as Americans can say all kinds of things within America. Now, a German on Twitter, X, whatever, should be able to say anything that is legal in Germany. And there's, the big obvious thing is to promote Nazism is illegal in Germany, and that's sort of why I'm using the example. So if somebody was promoting something up that is illegal in Germany on Twitter, my understanding, would ban that person or account and block those kind of statements because that's illegal in Germany. Now, I could do it here in America because it's legal for me to do it here in America. So this is some of the nuance with Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is looking at the Brazilian law and going, hey, no, this stuff is legal here, but also to a point, because Twitter doesn't operate in North Korea or Iran, he goes, well, these certain regimes, North Korea and Iran, I don't care. I'm not even going to try to um, obey their laws. So I'll just let's be banned in that country or those countries. So, how important is Brazil to Twitter? Not very, again. Not much. I mean, I know there's millions of people down there, but their money isn't worth very much. So their advertising income won't be very much. I do not know if Twitter makes money in Brazil or did make money. So, you have to ultimately look at all kinds of start things. What judge should put in jail? Elon Musk closed Twitter down. Yes. Yeah, but it's not, but okay, but you got to understand, Felipe, your statement, it had but one judge was threatening to put all in jail, so Elon Musk closed Twitter in Brazil. The judge wasn't going to put anybody in jail, Felipe. The judge was not going to put anybody in jail. The police were going to put people in jail. You got to understand that. That's sort of the distinction. Because this judge could say all kinds of bullshit, all kinds of anything, but if nobody paid attention to him, meaning the police, the government, didn't pay any attention to him, well, then it wouldn't matter. So that's what I'm talking about. It takes the police to put somebody in jail. Yemen is important to Russia, China, because it offers opportunity to military naval bases in that part of the world. No, Mirror Man, sorry, you're wrong. China has a military base in Djibouti. If you know where Djibouti is, look it up on a map, which is right across the bay, right across the straits, I should say, from Yemen. The U.S. has naval bases in Djibouti. I don't think Russia has naval bases in Djibouti, but Russia is not using any of the naval bases down there in the Yemen area, as far as I know. Unless they have something in Djibouti too, I don't think so. Um, Russia right now is crippled and they don't care that much about what's going on there. They have naval bases in Syria long term. They have forces in Sudan, but it's not really that important to them because they already have bases in that area. Okay, why put her in jail? Elon Musk is refusing to break laws for the judge, right? Yes. Okay, I don't know enough about Brazilian laws. Now, like some communist countries, Brazil also don't have Twitter, right? At this point, who doesn't have a naval base in Djibouti? Exactly, exactly. And so, yeah, Djibouti is a French protectorate, shall we say, and the the French are still part of the. Let's be generous. How shall I say this? The American alliance system. So that would be a pleasant way to say what France is. So yeah, I'm going to grab a Coke and I'll be right back. So please hang loose for just 15, 20 seconds while I walk in the other room. Almost back. What did Felipe say? some people in the federal police obey the judge here is basically FBI. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's a political system. All right. Let's see if we can continue some of our breakthroughs and push out here. Okay, we have 10 shells. So, and let's take a quick look at the rail system here. Okay, that is where we want to go, but he's sort of in the way here. But, well, okay. Oh, well, yeah, let's fire all of our shells. Okay, he can't move. He can come to here and he can come to here. Federal police is acting like a Gestapo. Yeah, I can imagine. Can't occupy that hex. Damn. Okay, well. Can't. Wish these things had a little more movement ability here. Movement cost +1. I think because it got bombarded so badly. All right, well. Okay, they just shattered. Now. So we have a pretty good breakthrough here, though. It's move you up to help with the supplies. But it is not overly reinforced. Not well planned. Here's where I've been pushing much harder. Right. Okay. So, like I mentioned, been pushing much harder. 3 rounds, 3 or 8 rounds. Okay. We want to take there, but we only have one position here. Okay, you're too far away. Okay, well, we've heard him bad. Thinking whether I... Yeah, I know I'm being influenced by one particular YouTuber, but I'm also looking out my window, getting information from other people. And I think I was talking about this last week or the week before. Just been on my mind a lot. I think we are in a post-nuclear peace world right now. Not going to go into all of it, but I think it was either last week's stream or the stream before. One of them. How just some examples of how I think governments used to be terrified that a war would escalate into a major nuclear exchange. And I know that at least one YouTuber who he's a pretty decent observer of like American politics, and he's traveled around the world, but he doesn't know shit about military. Talks out of his ass even worse than I do about the world military situation. And I'm sort of avoiding to bring up some names, not because I'm not trying to on any of these people dump on them, or trying to like, oh well, I know so much better than they do, blah 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 blah. No, but I think the calculus is changing. I think most nations believe one of two things, or maybe both. One, whether they morally believe it, but that it is unacceptable to use nuclear weapons in anything except a last resort for survival of your nation. Meaning Israel is not going to put a nuke into Tehran, okay? Or Cairo, or Sana'a, which is the sort of capital of Yemen up in the north, or Damascus or wherever. They have nukes. I don't know if they have nuke missiles or just nuke bombs. I mean long range missiles. I don't mean just something that's short range that you launch from an aircraft, but longer range stuff. I don't know what they have as delivery systems, but I know they have nukes. That's well established. So, and I know they haven't been testing them or whatever. Don't know, but they very probably work. Now, would Israel use them either as, a last resort? Big armies are forming and moving towards Israel or in Israel, and they, use them tactically against the armies? Yeah, I think they might. Would Israel, and this is the other thing, would Israel use them as a retaliation? Oh, yeah. Israel would use them as a retaliation. And so, what I'm saying is nations like India, Pakistan, or India, China, very well may go to war again. Even though all three of those nations have one level or another of nuclear weapons. I don't think Pakistan has any ICBM type nukes. I think they're just bombs, free fall drop bombs. So they got to get them onto an aircraft and fly them somewhere and detonate them. Can be a suicide mission. It doesn't have to be a drop bomb and go home. But it depends on what are they fighting for. if India Pakistan goes to war, and the war, and they are sort of at a low level war, anyways. I don't know if you want to call it a Cold War or whatever, but over Kashmir. Well, I don't think Pakistan is going to nuke New Delhi or some other major Indian cities over Kashmir, knowing that India is very likely to nuke Pakistani major cities. So I think the calculation has changed. And then two, I think the nations are really worried about not just international public condemnations, people wringing their hands and marching in the streets of Paris against nuking of Kiev or something, Oh my God, we marched from in remembrance of the millions dead in Kiev or something. I don't think it's that they're just worried about that. I think they're worried about U.S. retaliation with nukes. But I no longer think that because again, back when I was an Army ROTC, back in the olden days, if Russia was going to go to war directly, or if Russian forces, shall we say, guys wearing Russian, flag patches in Russian tanks or Russian aircraft, were to start fighting American aircraft or tanks or soldiers, not proxies, but or Russians pretending to be North Koreans or whatever the hell, volunteers, that it was very much thought that would or could at least, but probably would escalate into a global thermonuclear war. And I think that calculation is changed, but I do think that they are still worried about throwing around a few nukes because the U.S. may decide to do something. So I see dark days ahead for much of the world. I don't know how much the world understands, how much the U.S., and I don't even think the most U.S. citizens understand how much debt the U.S. has. People say it's unsustainable. Well, at this level of spending and this level of operations, in a way, it is unsustainable because eventually it's going to cause hyperinflation. Maybe not Zimbabwean levels, but to where dollars will be equal to pennies nowadays. So instead of buying a gallon of milk now for like $5 almost, I remember when it was like not that long ago, a decade or so ago, $2 for a gallon of milk. So but you'll buy it for $100. But people will be making $100 an hour. It just so. And the U.S. political interest, and I know my friends, a lot and some literally are in Ukraine. The Ukraine is the most important thing. We've got to fight. No, Ukraine is not worth bankrupting America for it. And because it's both the Ukrainians and everybody else, have already hurt Russia so bad. What they thought was going to be a 4-day war to install a puppet, I think that, and take some territory, install a puppet and take some territory, has become a disaster, right? So they're not like, oh, well, hey, now we're planning on going into the Baltic states, or we're planning on retaking all of Georgia, or whatever. They've been stopped, okay? And the idea, and I think the idea that so much of the establishment has, that when we just keep pushing on this, we will bring down the Putin regime because, they'll go bankrupt. Well, I don't think that is the case, or that should be the case. Why would anyone wants to continue to support Ukraine? They had plenty of chance to get a decent peace solution, and they didn't spend the effort to do so. Well, Rhaegar, actually, my understanding is at some point Ukrainians were ready to do that. It was the West who told them not to. Now, I don't know if that's the truth or not. I don't know. My calculations in 2019 show that Russia is one of the countries that can survive in full economic isolation. Yeah, Russia can survive in full economic isolation. That's quite true. Survive. Not do well, but survive. Okay. There's a difference. Yeah, I heard Boris from UK arrived and killed the peace talks. Yeah, it's my understanding there was some. Again, I don't know who. I know you're talking. Yeah, what's his name? Yeah. So yeah, I obviously don't know. I'm not even following the even public or leaked details enough to really know the details. The Ukraine war, long term, for Russia is unsustainable. Okay, it just is. Oh well, how do you know this, gamer? You're talking out your ass or something? No, I know what I'm talking about because the two things were unsustainable for the Soviet Union. One, the need to maintain military strength versus Reagan's buildup. That did cause the Soviet Union a lot of effort to counter Reagan's military buildup. And two, the Afghanistan war. Okay? It wasn't just the Afghanistan war. It wasn't just the military buildup. And it wasn't just Soviet economic policies that were bad. I mean, that's an element of it. But even now, you may go, oh, well, they're no longer doing communist economic policies. True. But they no longer have East Germany, Poland, Hungary, Romania, other Eastern Bloc allies. And I mean, not just allies in the Eastern Bloc, but countries like Cuba, that was economically supporting the Soviet system, Vietnam that was economically supporting the Soviet system, trade with India that was trying to, play both sides against the middle. They've lost a lot of that. I don't think India is buying any substantial Russian hardware of any sort, even civilian hardware. I think India's trade with Russia has, compared to in the days in the past, both whether it was Russia or the Soviet Union, is in essence collapsed. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure on the military front I'm right. And so Russia during the Cold War was partially funding its capabilities by selling, I don't know, tanks or whatever to India. So they no longer have that whole, second, because everybody remember, hey, Jemuska, how you doing? There was the First World, and then there was the Second World, which was the sort of Warsaw Pact states. And then there was the Third World. And so you were one of those three, in essence. I know there were countries that, I don't know, Albania, that was probably more of a third world country than a second world country or whatever. But, and there may be some nations out there that are, that might out there be not quite first world, but, or, definitely not third world, but we're not part of the communist bloc system. Yeah, not everything fits neatly into all categories, but they had the Second World Alliance, and Russia's lost major parts of that, including Ukraine, which was part of the Russia's both industrial and food production complex. So Russia is weaker, considerably weaker than the Soviet Union. Considerably weaker. Where China, current day, is so much stronger than it was when Clinton comes to office. Clinton enables Chinese, becoming a massive power. Now, it was on the ideological belief that both the Republicans and the Democrats, I'm not just throwing this all on Clinton, that believed, maybe still believe mistakenly, that, well, hey, nations are rational actors. Nations will, and this is where they're Marxist. No, I'm not talking communist, I'm talking Marxist. Marx puts out there in his philosophy of history that everything is motivated by economics. He is wrong. Marx is wrong on just about every single front. So they believe that if they can intertwine nations like China, like Russia, they won't do anything irrational like start a war. That's what they believe. They're wrong, but they believe that. So they allowed China to become what it is today, where it was really a very poor nation, somewhere teetering between second world and third world, where now it's clearly what would be a second world nation. Sure, Shanghai, some of the, Hong Kong, yeah, those are first world parts of China for sure, but there's enough inland areas of China that really make it a second world nation and whatnot. So the Ukraine war is unsustainable by Russia. Now, that doesn't mean that no peace will break out. That just means, sort of like North and South Korea, that there may be an official or de facto, meaning just sort of like it was before this whole big war started when Russia goes into Ukraine. There was already fighting in the Donbass, but it was just sort of like, supposedly local ethnic Russians fighting, some Ukrainian forces just skirmishing, blah, blah, blah. Well, that kind of thing could just sit around for a long time, and neither side doing much about it. But the war is unsustainable long term for Russia. But it is sustainable for a few years, and it's costing the West a lot. Let's see, Reagan built up impoverished Soviet satellites, which dragged Russia under, but these satellites are on the other side of the wall now, yes, and thus economically the war is far more harmful to Central Europe than for Russia. Yeah, I would agree with, it's harmful for everybody. Destroying economies of Central Europe might be helpful to EU officials if they plan to create a European superstate. Yeah, I do agree that nations see the former East Bloc nations see the EU as somewhere between see the benefits as well as seeing the sort of necessity that if they don't join, they'll get swallowed up by I almost said Soviets, by the Russians again. But they find once they get in, it's not necessarily quite as beneficial as you're here, you're part of us. Oh, you need to take X number of refugees. What? No, we don't want. No, yes, yeah, you must, or we'll start harming you economically, but we'll start doing that. So yeah, it's definitely an issue. Actually, trying to make economies dependent on each other to prevent world war, because world war would create mutually assured economic destruction, was an ideology before World War One. Okay, Ragar. I'm not going to dispute that. I hadn't heard that was a and I don't mean, I'm sure there's somebody sitting in somebody's basement thinking about all kinds of things forever. But if that was a widespread, mutually required, ideology that, widespread. But yeah, now of course, history tells me the opposite. Nazi Germany wants to get rid of economically successful things because they were non-German. Mussolini's Italy, fascist Italy, wants to be entirely independent of other trade. Not that they don't want to. Okay, well now T2. Back in the 1700s or earlier, prominent philosophers had written about the idea. In the 1700s or the 18th century, the dominant political and economic philosophy for the major powers was mercantilism. And mercantilism is a type of autocracy. And this is what I was saying, is Italy's Mussolini was trying to be as much of an autocracy, meaning a contained economic system that doesn't require either exports or imports for it to function well. Not that, an autocracy wouldn't, like Mussolini, wouldn't bring in, Swiss chocolate or some luxury goods from some other country, and not that they wouldn't want to export some manufactured products or maybe even some resources that they had in abundance. It's not the, zero economic interaction with others. It's not to rely upon it. Now, where mercantilism differs a bit is the idea that you have colonies, in essence. I mean, that's what they were, but it varies by how you want to deal with it and where you want to deal. In which that supply both resources and markets for what is your primary home country's economic benefits, if you will, industrialization. So we'll take one, Spain, since Felipe is, I think, still around here. I know he's Brazilian, but it still sort of counts there. In Latin America, Spain, of course, got a lot of gold and silver, and not just stealing it from the Incas and the Aztecs, but mining it ongoing, as well as gems and other high-value goods, as well as things like spices. Not so much food, because, like I know just from being a Californian, when California was part of the Spanish Empire, they grew lots and lots of beef out in California, to the point that beef, the meat, was free, because they didn't know what to do with it all. So people could get free food, free beef, because what they would do is kill the cattle, skin them, and at least dry out. I don't know if they necessarily tanned the hides. I know they did in some cases, so they made local leather. But they would at least dry the hides out, and Spanish ships would show up off the coast and get filled with just hides to take back to Spain to be turned into leather. And they couldn't, there wasn't refrigeration, And at that volume, sure, you can move a few cows around for breeding stock, but you weren't bringing large numbers of cows or steers or whatever back to Spain or somewhere else in Europe to sell for food. So they were just, and they couldn't eat all the beef. So, local Indians and local colonists and the mestizo, the mix, the people who become Mexicans, there, they can get free beef, at least during slaughtering times and whatnot. And they could, so, in essence, that's wasteful. Obviously, you're wasting the beef for the hides, but, it's getting that resource. And it was worth the money to send a ship all the way around South America up to California just to fill it with hides and bring it all the way back to Spain or the Spanish Netherlands or whatever, whenever the period time is, to unload and sell the hides. So, and they were also bringing other spices and other things too. But that was part of the economic system. And of course, the ship that was showing up, was paying for these hides and also selling things to the locals, often the local elites. But they were selling stuff. So it was, a trade system that was illegal in just about all the cases for a non-Spanish ship to show up to a Spanish port or for a non-English ship to show up to an English port. So this mercantilism, that was the dominant 18th century for the major powers. Russia going not through ships, but moving east during the time. Spain, and sometimes when it was the Habsburgs, Spain, that included Austria, moving out into, so, and the Habsburgs were the big starters of the colonial empire. It was only 1807 or something, around there, the War of Spanish Succession, that it flipped from being Habsburg over to being Bourbon monarchs in Spain. But that didn't change the economic principles. It just sort of changed, was Austria part of the system, and France and Britain. So those major powers, and those were the major powers then, were all mercantilistic, and which are in essence trying to be a type of autarkies. So yeah, I think post-World War I rulers wanted to reduce economic dependencies to prevent another drastic post-war recession. I don't think that was a big thing, Rhaegar. I mean, I know you may have studied it that particularly more. The big recession, the big post-war thing, all comes in for primarily German reparations. You have Germany, the Entente and the Central Powers are economically exhausted at the end of the war, and yes, the U.S. joins the Entente, but I'm not talking about them when I'm talking about the Entente powers. They're exhausted economically. The U.S. is booming because before the U.S. gets into the war, the U.S. is selling all kinds of stuff to Europe. Food, because so many of the farmers have become soldiers, so they're not growing in nearly as much food as they can, meaning the ground can handle. So the U.S. is exporting massive amounts of food. There's a big boom for farmers. Obviously, there's the selling weapons and munitions to the Entente. There's also, maybe not as big, maybe not as much, but selling other industrial products to the Entente before the U.S. even gets involved in it. So the U.S. is making huge amounts of money. The financial system is making huge amounts of money. And then the U.S. enters it, but is very minimally damaged by actually being in the war. in any sort of whether it's lives or money or physical damage to infrastructure. I mean, no one was bombing the U.S. or anything. So the Entente is exhausted, and they want reparations because they're blaming Germany for the war. Wrong, it's Serbia, but okay. So they put huge economic pressures on, and since Austria-Hungary falls apart, yeah, they have to pay reparations, I'm sure, and I don't know the details, but it's not a huge amount of reparations, or as a big a. I mean, it may be big percentage for them, but they're not as economically powerful. And so Germany doesn't have any money to pay off these reparations. But the U.S. has all this extra money in the banks. There's not necessarily the U.S. government, there's the U.S. economic system. So the U.S. loans the money to Germany to pay off the, reparations to France and Britain. And so that's the system that builds up. And for a while it works. It worked, and I know there's some, bad times in Germany now and again. But it does sort of work until the U.S. has its second depression. Has one briefly for about a year, or earlier on for about a year, and it's just a brief but really bad recession, and it recovers very quickly. But then it goes into the Great Depression. And along with the Depression also happens the Dust Bowl. So that really kills a lot of farming in the sort of the western part of the Mississippi Valley or Mississippi watershed area. Places like Kansas, Missouri, whatever. The big Dust Bowl. So two things happen. And that stops the ability of the U.S. to loan money to Germany to then pay off the Western Allies. So that collapses that. So that is how the system is set up post-World War I. Yeah. Marx has done so much damage to humanity. He really, really has. Okay, let's see. We don't want to hold the road, so we're going to come down to. We'll take a couple turns doing that. I think we can do this. Nope. Okay. We'll swap these later because I don't want him holding the road. We don't want them to collapse this and push up. Now down here, okay, well, we'll hit them with the. I'm just going to hit hardest first. All right, we'll just leave that for the moment. We'll see how they respond to that. But so, and this all still goes back to what the Trump and the Republicans will do about Brazil. From the way where the carriers are being deployed, mostly to the Middle East, but also to currently, because there are some open source publications of where at least some of the U.S. carriers are, just in general. And then there's other publications out there that get satellite images. Because there's two of our super carriers are sitting off of Iran as I speak right now. But the other carriers and active groups are all sitting off of China. So we have them mostly around the Mediterranean, the Middle East, all that area, sort of, that area, and off China. I don't think the U.S. has energy to worry about a lot of other places in the world. And so, I think you're more and more on your own. I think it's going to get uglier and uglier. Yeah, I think it is. I wish it wouldn't. I wish it wouldn't, but I think it is. Okay, well, let's see. Can we purchase anything? Yes, a division or two that were destroyed. Let's get them fully upgraded, at least in combat capabilities. And this is functionally not so much building new divisions, and that's partially why it's cheaper and I think faster to get them out. It's just taking a division that is non-functional as a combat unit, reinforcing and retraining for a few weeks, and get them back to the front lines. Right. Okay. Let's do this here. All right, bomber's back there. Yeah, I'm surprised. Okay, some more detachments. Very nice. Okay, well, let's take a look around. Come on, let's move here. Okay, here we've extended, but we are somewhat weak. So, with a few of these detachments, okay, we have another reserve division here, but more detachments. I think we can pull another division out of the line here, maybe. He's going to probably take over there. Let's put you there. Okay, division now. Right. Well, if we can put it right down in there, we're gonna. There we go. Now, while I'm thinking about this, let's go to research. And I probably should have. Anti-aircraft defense, infantry warfare. It's yes. Armored warfare. Yes. Command and control. Yes. There we go. That will help us, hopefully, if we get positive research benefits here. Okay, you guys entrench. You guys swap out, and you entrench. That. You guys are pretty damn weak, so you will reinforce to that. But we are fortunately holding the rail links, the road links, both down through here. There we go. Now, I don't understand this, and we just talked about how the AI is a bit formulaic, and I understand, but is this just trying to withdraw, or what are they doing? That they just left, I don't know. AI fight hard? It can. It can fight hard. Okay, it's already. So we're going to pull you back, and we're going to pull you back. That way we were able to strike here and retreat, which is a good thing. They can come down and entrench. No, straight down. The other way, yeah. Okay, so. Okay, now, here, let's swap these two out. See where we move him later. Ouch. Okay. Reinforce you guys. Yeah, still holding the front. Let's move you up like that. Yeah, bot. I'm not going to do anything about it right now, but you're right, it is a bot. Yeah, I guess it does sort of look Korean in its lettering. Think about that. Let's come over here. Okay, I think right now we're just going to reinforce. I know I may not achieve the objective of winning this scenario by taking Paris, but again, my goal with this is to fight, how do I put this? Fight World War I smartly. And by that I mean keep the costs and lives. I don't know if, no, low is not the right term. Keep the costs and lives to effectively use up the lives. Meaning, let's say I take 5 factors of damage, but I fully take out a division. Well, okay, yeah, I've cost human lives, and I may have not taken any ground or taken any strategic position, but I've, the win-loss ratio is heavily on my side, both in actual costs of lives as well as it takes longer for the opposite side and more expensive to rebuild a unit than for me just to hit the reinforce button and get some reinforcements into the system. So that is how I'm looking at this. And if you will, role-playing this or whatever, this playthrough. Take that down, but not, oh well. I'm saving my Air Force for a bit later. Ten shells, 2 shells. Okay. I can't move in there, but he can move in here. Okay. Well, he didn't. We will entrench. Not quite as cleanly as I'd hoped, but we're here. We're moving up a bit. I just didn't even think there was going to be anybody there. Ah. Oh, well, he can move to here. Well, then he will. That way we can pound on him next turn. All right, so we pushed into here. They're reacting to us. There's going to be more than just a few factors, but I do intend on taking out this division. There we go. Excuse me. And this is one of the cases where the AI keeps filling this spot and I can just keep taking him down. But oh well. Okay, 6 shells. Okay, 79. Oh, this is just a detachment. No, we need to take this one out first. Okay, well. There we go. All right, well, we pushed into there. Now down here, tank is still the sort of problem of the area. So, we'll use one of these reconnaissance bombers, come over. Ooh, two. I'm going to use the other reconnaissance bomber. See if I can. No. Okay, well. Let's use all the shells. Let's see what we can do here. Okay. All right. Good. Ah, I see part of the problem. See, this guy is not as upgraded as some of the other units, so they're not as good at fighting tanks. It does make sense. All right, so we've taken that town. Oh, wait, no, we've taken the unit out of the town. But that's fine. We don't need to actually take the town. That's all right. That's pretty good. We got rid of that tank. That tank was a big problem for us. We're closing in on them. Yeah, so let's actually just move you. Well, where do we have good supply? Okay, straight north. We'll reinforce you there. Yeah, I want to bother with. They've been able to fully dress their line again. Well, then we will entrench here. Now we have our nice straight line. We do have supplies coming down to here, so we're good that way. Maybe not great, but we're good. We need to take this town, though, eventually. Well, let's see. Can we purchase? No. Now, here, let's move you. I have. Think here. Felipe just said, and like expected, Star Wars by Ubisoft is bad. That's what I hear. I am just so done with any modern Star Wars. It's even souring me to the old stuff. But both video games, books, the Dark Horse comics of the past, I was a big fan of. But yeah, you know, buying most, if not all, in the PC games for Star Wars in the past. But yeah, no, they've lost my money. It's not made for me anyway, so why would I buy it? Get a little closer. Yeah. Yep. I've even seen a little bit of some of that mess creeping into the games publishers I work for. So, yeah. Well, it upset a few politicians. I don't know if it upset the government, Felipe. At least here in America, you can almost always find some congressman or woman who will complain about just about anything. So, yeah, some politician got upset. That's true. We'll see if it really upsets them or something. I don't know. The government, that is. I don't think the government should be upset about it. I think that's ridiculous, quite honestly. I just think if Japanese people don't like it, I mean, I'm not the one to tell Japanese people whether they should or shouldn't like something done about Japan. I mean, I have my opinions about it, but what does that matter to the Japanese? I mean, even if I was a big time, truly big time YouTuber, what does it, my opinion matter to the Japanese on whether it's messed up or not? But if if the Japanese feel it's messed up, the thing to do is just not buy it, just not give them money. You don't need to ban it or complain about it in, Parliament or whatever. You just don't buy it. Just a game. Now, games matter. Popular culture matters, but that normally shouldn't be government doing anything about it. It's just people not buying stuff. That's the way things should be handled. Austria-Hungary joins the Central Powers. Well, they have been, but for this game purposes, for this scenario purposes, okay, we've lost a division deployment. Austria-Hungary, yes. Oh, we know that there's a division where we knew there was a division. Right. Yes. As soldiers of our, what's that? 9th Corps? Or is that? No, that's 8th Corps, sorry. Or 18th Corps. You have been sent to France on the western to serve on the Western Front alongside German allies. Orders are to assist German army holding its positions and support its offensive or enter. Yes. Okay, so division and the detachment. The division I want for the. Yep. Well, it's interesting. This is 1918, July. So we're coming towards the end of the war. We'll put you there in the detachment. We'll put over here. And it does sort of kind of make sense, but it's sort of odd. Germany sends a bunch of forces, or has been before this point, send a bunch of forces to help Austria. And partially, again, I was talking earlier, windows onto the world. Well, my biggest window onto this is infantry attacks by Erwin Rommel. He's he's giving his experiences in World War One, chronicalizing it or whatever. And first he sent down with German units, yes, but to fight in Romania in the mountains because he's in a mountain division. So they bring in German forces, and it's not just more. like more for the grinder. It's also thought to be better forces. And then later he's moved over onto the Italian front. That's where he earns his blue max. So Germany is sending elite forces, specialist forces, to fight alongside the Austrians. Now, what we may see with these Austrian units here, purchase that. Now we can come over here, and we have no points at this point. I don't know if we'll get points eventually. I know we have these guys coming anyways here. Now, these guys may not be nearly as good as the Germans, but like I've been pulling forces, or divisions, I should say, out of the front line here and moving in detachments, you can use the we're going to first entrench you just in case. You can use these other forces as, line holding units, not necessarily as your primary offensive forces. So it's a way for nations to help each other in the midst of this war. Okay, I feel like old Assassin's Creed games respected real story more than make up stuff. Well, okay, I've never played Assassin's Creed. I am a PC player. Oh, I know it's stuff has been out on the PC, but I just never gotten into it. I do understand that there is a fantasy element to Assassin's Creed. I don't know how good their history really is. I have watched throughout my life the left take over every institution. It just takes over the institution. It just gets in and promotes itself as a virus within every institution. So any company that gets big enough and successful enough, the left tries to co-opt, tries to infiltrate it. So these big game companies, I remember not too many years ago, but maybe 6 years ago, I remember talking to this one guy after he found out I was a YouTuber. He wanted to go to work for Blizzard so bad because Blizzard has a major development studio in California. And even back then, I was going, why? You don't want to do that. No, it's terrible. And this is even before all the Blizzard bad stuff had come out. People see the big shining company out there and think that they want to be in it. Make your own damn game. Be like Bill and Hubert here, who make Strategic Command in a small dev studio. Develop your own thing. Don't run after the big thing because, yeah, there's a few big stars within the productions, I'm sure, of Assassin's Creed, but it just becomes, in essence, even more of a factory job, Do this, do that, design this thing, design that thing, make it work this way. You just get told what to do. You're just now a worker bee in a game studio as opposed to a worker bee in a credit card company, because the credit card all have software people that manage all that software, and they spend huge amounts of money making sure that system is secure because it's about real money moving around the world globally, and you don't want hackers to hack into the credit card. So they got a bunch of programmers working for them, probably treated better, probably paid better than Blizzard. But yeah, it isn't the cool Assassin's Creed game that I made that knife, or I programmed that little bit of AI, or whatever bullshit that they could point to that they did. And whether it's good work or bad work, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's these big companies. It's companies get successful, they grow, and then they get bought out by somebody with bigger money, and then they get turned into a factory for whatever, even if it's just for one game. But it just becomes a factory. So, it's just that kind of thing. I just don't know why people even care. Star Wars Outlaws. I don't care. Assassin's Creed. Well, okay, yeah, I know millions of people played however many Assassin's Creeds earlier, but it's not a continuation of the same story. It's just the same type of gameplay in a different setting. If it isn't good, who cares? I just don't get all that worked up over it. This isn't about jumping on top of historic buildings and watching random arts of Venice and other old city states or walking around pyramids. Story was kind of perpendicular. Okay, I don't quite get the perpendicular part, but okay. Maybe you meant something else, but yeah. Yeah, you're right. And that's part of the console thing is jump here, jump there, slit somebody's throat or gag them or whatever, It's all that sort of stuff. Problem is Ninja had ninjas. Problem is Japan had ninjas. Okay, yeah. Story about Templars versus Assassins feels semi-plausible when it happens in the Mediterranean, but it feels wrong in China, Japan. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy how it is easy to find full Russian movies and series on YouTube. I guess Russia does not care about copyright. Well, it might be a question of who owns the copyright and how do you establish that? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Okay, guys. Well, I think we're going to end today's stream here. I've really enjoyed hanging out with Felipe, Ragar, um, uh, Titu, uh, Chamnuska. Just scrolling up the Mirror Man if you're still around. Thanks for hanging out with me. Today, I will be back and hopefully with a few friends, but unfortunately, probably not with Arno, but with a few friends playing War Thunder tomorrow. So I hope you join me then. So thank you so much. I do enjoy making these streams. Give me a chance to talk, to think, and to play games.